Welcome to the Crownsmen Show, everyone. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today on the show, we have AUSA, U.S. Corp, and we've got their General Manager of the Americas, Alberto Ortega. Alberto, welcome to the show. I can't talk this morning, but good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
I won't get into it, but we've had some crazy scheduling to get AUSA on the show. I've got to give a quick thank you to Albert, who's been very patient. We've been working together for almost a year to try to make this episode happen, but it's now happened.
Yep.
So great to have you on. Let's just get into, and also thank you for my gift. It's going to be on our display. We're going to get into what that unit is as well. Before we do that, let's start with, I want to get into sort of your professional profile and everything as well, but let's just start with the macro intro to anybody who doesn't know AUSA.
Well, AUSA is a European company based in Manresa, very close to Barcelona, around, I would say, 40 miles more or less. And it's a company that was founded in 1956. When the company was founded, the company was producing microcars, because back then producing microcars was a thing in Spain. There were many factories there. We produced a really small car, and we were producing that car for around 6 years. During those 6 years, we produced around 1,100 units. But back then, a really big factory for cars was being built in Barcelona. So every company that was doing microcars had to change business. And that was our first big change in the company. We moved from automotive, let's say, into construction. And then we started producing dampers back then with the engines and axles that we were using for the microcars. But we started doing dampers. And
I see. So you switched out what was going on a platform, essentially.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the end, at the beginning, we were using some of the engines and axles we had back then in trying to build this new product. Then afterwards, we moved into diesel and all of that. But it was one of the big changes. And since then, the company has grown. We started working abroad in the 1970s, having our first subsidiary in France. Then we moved into the UK. Also, we started working in Latin America. And since then, right now, we are, I would say, a truly multinational company with presence over or around 90 countries, more or less 500 partners around the world. And
Wow. I want to go back to the cars because I had to look it up when you said it. These are beautiful looking little cars. If this came out now, people would like it. Like, it's very, very stylish this would be the 50s, 60s?
No, 1956. It's when we started producing, and those cars were produced just on a 6-year span. And you can find those type of cars, I wouldn't say anywhere in the world, but there are some units here and there. We used to have a couple of units also at our factory, so when you were visiting, you could see the car, and it was always something people loved, and because normally they don't expect us to have started from producing cars.
I didn't even know that coming into this interview. I genuinely had no idea that was your history. And then I love the front end is very stylish. I'm looking at it on LinkedIn. There's a post. It's like a blue and white one. It's a beautiful little car.
Yeah, and back then you could even saw some of those cars in movies here in Spain, and they were quite popular back then. Yeah.
So is there sort of a timeline on when and we're going to get into some specific units, but is there sort of a timeline? So the dumper was first, which is what you're really known for. Do I have that right?
Yes,
so
correct.
The dumper came around, what year did you say that was?
It's 1961.
60. Okay, that's a long time. Okay, so it's in 61, and then that platform, I mean, that's evolved. Actually, let's just go through that for a sec. Even in the dumper, it's quite a range even of size just in that particular item, right?
Yeah. I mean, dumper was our first, let's say, our first range into the construction or agriculture business. Right now, we have, in terms of dumpers, because the first dumpers we produced were rigid dumpers, really simple. From there, we still have a range of rigid dumpers, but we also have articulated dumpers that go from 2,200 pounds up to 22,000 pounds.
Let's talk about our Heavy Industry World Tour brought to you by Sabina Equipment. Find, market, and sell surplus and used equipment. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsmen.com to be part of Crownsmen's Heavy Industry World Tour. Effortless Corporate Traveler Management is here with Corporate Traveler Canada. Boost your business with trusted expert solutions that save time, money, and enhance the traveler experience. Trusted by thousands of companies worldwide. Book and track your travels on your phone or let your dedicated consultant handle it for you. Enjoy 24/7 support and live chat from any time zone and get real-time travel alerts anywhere you go. Your next business trip just got easier. Learn more about Corporate Traveler Canada at corporatetraveler.ca. Attention builders, we've got everything you need to know about the grit and grind of the construction world in one show. The Construction Show is where you can share your expert techniques and strategies to help keep the crew strong and construction sites secure. From foundational tips, industry trends, safety strategies to advanced equipment and machinery. Be part of the voice of construction. Book your episode and showcase your company to millions worldwide. Visit crownsmen.com.
So let's give you some use cases where, like this little one, this compact one, what is the power of these? Or are these all electric?
No.
No.
I mean, first, if it's okay with you, first there is regarding AUSA as a company, when I was explaining where we come from.
Yeah.
I mean, as a company, what we do, we produce rough terrain compact equipment, okay? And the applications for those, for our ranges might go from construction to agriculture. All of our equipment, not only talking about dumpers, are rough terrain, which means that they are four-wheel drive and they have the capability to work on really complicated areas or where the terrain is not so good. So our range of dumpers, as I said, goes from the really small ones that might be used in some agricultural applications, mainly for construction, for really tight spaces, and then we go from there to our big units. Regarding whether we do have electric, yes, we do. Our range mostly is diesel powered, but we do have a couple of models in dumpers that are electric, specifically the small ones, but also some of our telescopic handlers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When I asked that question, I looked at your website and realized there's a big E beside. There's 3 units of the dumpers that are electric, and there's a big E. So people go on to that, they'll see that quite quickly.
Yeah, because in the end we have like 3 different ranges, which is dumpers, rough terrain forklifts, and rough terrain telescopic handlers.
Right.
Those are our 3.
So in these dumpers, is there, like, if you go into like the U.S. market or the European or down into Latin America, is their popularity by size and application? Like in this sector, people sort of know them and use them, and this one you're still trying to push into that. How does that sort of play out in different markets?
This is really interesting because in the end, depending on where we are talking, depending on the market, the way our machines are being used is different. And if we focus on the dampers, that's a great example. If you would go to Europe, the concept of the damper is really popular. You can find them almost everywhere, mainly on construction sites by a backhoe loader or just moving, because in the end, a damper, let's say, if we simplify it, it's a machine that moves something from one place to the other, okay? That's the main thing they do. In Europe, it would be construction. I wouldn't say 100%, but close to the main application is construction. But when we started working in the US, because as I said, AUSA was founded in 1956 in Spain, but we started having a subsidiary here in the US in 2014. Okay, AUSA US Corp was founded in 2014. The way we grew in the market was with the damper. That's our main selling product. But instead of being able to grow in the construction business, we found the golf course maintenance and construction business, which was an application that was not so popular elsewhere. And we grew there. One of the reasons for that might be that, construction market here in the US has a way of doing things like any other market in the world, and trying to introduce a new concept is always complicated for a company that came from Europe, and it was complicated. So the way we grew was mainly with the golf course construction. At this moment, we're still being really successful on that market, but we are trying to grow also in the construction, because we know that the application is there, but we are still working on making the market see that this is a good product for them, which normally takes some time.
Did you know cementitious binders can be responsible for up to 70% of the total GHG footprint of mine backfilling processes? Now you can replace up to 50% of the binder in your mine backfill operations with Graybond, Graymond's new low-carbon cementitious binder. This lime-based alternative binder maintains a 40 to 70% lower GHG footprint compared to typical cement and can adapt to varying mine conditions without compromising performance. Learn more about Graybond at graybond.com. Join us in the depths of the mining world, where global leaders and industry giants converge to shape the future of mining. From groundbreaking technologies, advanced machinery, revolutionary safety measures, to sustainable initiatives. This is the voice of mining. This is Mining Now. Showcase your company to millions worldwide. Book your episode now. Visit crownsmen.com.
So, in like a golf course, what size would you be? Because I'm like looking on your YouTube and some of these units, like the D601 HG dumper. It's a fairly big unit. I'm assuming that's going to be more of a construction site. Where do they sort of land?
Really. For example, the machine you have there, the toy you have there is the D350, which is the 7,700 pounds unit, which at the beginning was not that popular for the golf application, but now is being one of the most popular ones. So the two main products we are supplying for golf are the D600, the D601, which is the 12,000 pounds, and the D350, which is the 7,700 pounds one.
Where do you see it, like on the construction, that we've got a fairly big construction audience, that's why I'm sort of going on this. When you see people have been successful, especially to the U.S. market, again, that's a big chunk of our audience. Where do you see people have success with it? Where have you seen specific applications or heard about specific applications where you go, this is a good case study of where the dumper fits in perfectly into someone's system?
Assuming that something that works in Europe will be working here is not a mistake that we want to make. So, because in the end, every market is a little bit different. But what we offer to the market is compact equipment, simple to use, really low cost of ownership, and different specs that helps the final client or the user in order to be productive. In the end, our equipment and these dumpers in particular not only offer a hydrostatic transmission or a power salve transmission, depending on the application, but they also offer really good maneuverability, real great capacity for moving into rough terrain conditions, and also having a swivel tip is something that is really useful not only for golf but also for construction. Regarding construction applications, one of the recent applications we had with some of our big units was, for example, for a bridge construction. In that case, we were using our reversible dampers, because inside of the range we were talking about, we have a couple of units, which would be the DR601 and the DR1001, which are our big dampers that have the possibility of a reversible driver position, which makes them like really good for places where you cannot turn around with the machine. Tunnel construction would be a big thing. For example, that's an application that we know our units are being used elsewhere. But as said before, we are trying to introduce the concept little by little, because normally people doing construction or any other application, they are already using something. Yeah. It's working well for them. We are quite confident that our solution will help them be more productive and help them lower their cost and use a machine that is specifically, produced for that application. But it's still taking a little bit of time.
Yeah, well, you're saying about the bridge. We've got $1 billion bridge that's getting built literally right by where I live, right by our apartment. And that unit, the way that they're moving earth, a lot of times it doesn't seem, just genuinely just doesn't seem that efficient. You've got a machine there, you've got a truck, you're having to, because this all-terrain
Yes.
is, they're basically having to make these different platforms for these trucks to come in, and then they got to make, then the loader has to come in. So there's all this time and effort just being used just to build the setup of the earth moving, not even the earth moving itself. So it was interesting when you said bridge, because that's what came to my mind, because bridges typically are going to have embankments and things like that. So this unit really kind of shines in those types of applications.
But any construction site would work, because in the end, you have to think that in the end, this is a machine that we wouldn't consider them as big, because there are like much bigger dampers in the market than what we are offering.
Right.
So, but we offer a machine that is compact, that is maneuverable, and works perfectly in construction sites. Normally on a construction site, you have mud, you have difficult terrain. These machines with their articulation makes them perfect for this type of job. And in the end, when you need to move material in a construction site, this is we would say that this is one of the best ways of being able to solve that problem. And yeah, we're confident that we'll be able to do it. We are starting to sell some units here and there for that application. And the good thing is that the concept of the dumper is becoming more and more popular.
I see them more around now.
Yeah, not directly related to construction, but the dumper is not so much of a thing like, because at the beginning in some exhibitions, people would come and say, what is this? I mean, they look good, but what does this product do? This is one of the questions we are normally asked when we are in exhibitions. People coming and saying, what's the application? How can I use it? Or, for example, in the end, the flexibility these type of units give you, and also these are machines that are really simple to operate. They're safe, and in the end, it's a machine that can help you improve your productivity, and that's where we are trying to get our product.
I just quickly too, the agriculture space must be a fairly applicable thing as well, right?
On that case, for agriculture, the really small ones can have an application.
Yeah.
But if we talk specifically about agriculture, I would go for our rough terrain forklifts, where its capacity, its availability, it's able to move through like really compact spaces, and we also have the experience of knowing that application is clear. Here in the U.S., there are other rough terrain forklifts that are doing at this moment that job, and this is where we are trying, and one of our focus for the near future, try to get into that big market.
That's what so that actually led to my next question. Are all three, you've got your dumpers, your forklifts, your telehandlers, are all three of those, are you pushing all of those into the U.S., Canadian, Latin America, into all of those getting pushed into those markets?
Yes, all of them. Yeah.
Okay, can we talk about where does the forklift shine? Are you competing directly? How does it sort of set up for you in the market to do that entry? Or well, you're already in the market, but how to get more market share?
I mean, there are like well-established brands already here in the market. The main difference with the dumper would be that the concept of the rough terrain forklift doesn't need to be introduced. It's already there.
Right.
So now our focus is trying to get into a market that is really mature, and we are trying to offer something. And if we focus on the rough terrain forklifts, I think that given the capacity and everything we offer, the main difference, because we go from 3,000 pounds up to 11,000 pounds, we offer really compact machines. All the other options in the market that are offering similar capacities, they are normally bigger in dimensions, and it's helping us to introduce our product, because we are offering the same productivity, but we are offering it on a much more compact equipment.
And that's through the design. That's just through the design. How does it, like performance, turn radius, all these sort of technical specs, how does that compare to a wider unit?
Depending, when I was explaining at the beginning that we do compact rough terrain equipment, I mean, compact is one of the things that we always keep in mind when launching new products or new developments. we know that we have a very specific market that we are trying to attack, and we've been really successful doing that for over the last, 70 years, and that's the way forward for us. In the end, when the forklift market, it's really big. I would say that the U.S. market is the biggest rough terrain forklift market in the world. So depending on the application, some of our units might not be the most suitable because we are oriented to places where space is an issue, okay, and where the terrain is not so good, and where you need productivity, you need to be able to move on an agriculture area without having issues, without thinking about the possibility of having problems of your machine being stuck here or there. And that's why we really offer really advanced four-wheel drive systems in our units. We are also offering really tight turning radius on our equipment, because when you have a need to have a machine on a really complicated area, whether it is a space or is the terrain, then that's where our products will fit. For example, row crops will be one of our main objectives in our for our equipment.
Sorry, which will be one of your main objectives?
Yeah, the row crops agriculture.
Okay, the row crops, yeah. And specifically for the forklifts.
Yes.
So, okay, I want to, you kind of already said it, but maybe just from a messaging standpoint, obviously you're on a show like ours, but it takes a lot more than that just to actually get out and get people just aware. Is it a challenge in the market because there are so many? I mean, I've driven forklifts my whole life, and there's brands, you just know them. You see them, and you almost know how to drive them just by seeing the brand. How much of a challenge is it in like a U.S. market where you have a fair amount of competition? The brand is known for its quality, but how do you get people to look is what I'm getting at. Is it through your dealers? How do your dealers sort of approach it? Actually just getting people to get on the units, take a look at them, and then, of course, from there, it's just a matter of how they like it and if it's a good fit. But how do you get that initial?
I mean, there is as I commented earlier, there is a big difference between, like, say, dumpers and forklifts. Dumpers not being a known concept, and we found this golf application, which was, let's say, open. So there was a space there for anyone
Alberto,
to get in.
I just want to jump in and just, because you said something, I don't want to forget it. Is it easier to bring the dumper into the market because it's new and everybody goes, oh, this is interesting, than because the forklift you have this competition, whereas this, I mean, you see this sitting from a mile away, you go, what is that? So maybe that's a better question. Is it actually easier to get the attention, get people to try the dumper, take a look at it and check it out?
No, nothing is easy. I would say it's a complex question to answer.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that when you're trying to get into a market that is really mature, it gives you different challenges to the ones we found when we started here, where we saw there was an application there, and suddenly our product was a great fit for it. So it was like, okay, we have this new product, which was not new, but it was new here.
Right.
Okay, and we can see that, okay, it works. So now let's start using it. Okay,
right.
That's one scenario for the dumper. If we go into rough terrain forklifts, now we're trying to enter into a market where, okay, being one of the biggest of the world, if not the biggest, here in this market, people are already using something, whether they're using a case or another unit. So the thing is, okay, I see your product, I like it, kind of, but they already know what it is, and they are already using something that works okay for them. Okay, so that's the main challenge here.
Right.
When we present a forklift in an exhibition, we never had anyone coming saying what this is. I mean, they already knew what it was.
Right, of course.
It was different with the dumper. So it has been a challenge, I would say. And the way that we've tried to introduce it, I mean, and I think we'll be talking about our distribution network later.
Yes.
It's like trying to introduce a new product, for sure, rental would be one of the best ways of starting. Like some of our dealers are doing some rental, so they have some units in rental. They talk to their customers and say, instead of buying it, why don't you give it a try for a couple of weeks, see how it works, see if it gives you what you need, and then that's the starting point. But the rough terrain forklift market is really mature, and it's really overcrowded, and it's a challenge, and we are actually working on that.
No, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about it, because I always say if people come on and talk and everything just goes perfectly in the interview, it's kind of a sign that there's some untruth happening, because it is all of us in business have these challenges, right? What is the response when people are doing these rental units? Like in terms of feel, I haven't driven one of your units, so I just genuinely don't know. Are they sort of known as a nice to drive, like like smooth? What is sort of the feel that people have when they're in these units?
Okay, I said that when we're thinking about launching a new product or doing any update, compact comes to mind, but that doesn't mean that we don't take into consideration that this machine might be driven by someone for long hours.
Yeah.
So something you will find in all of our range, for example, rough terrain forklifts or even telescopic handlers, we try to have wide cabin. We try to have an easy to use machine, something that is shared by not all, but most of our products, is that all of them can be operated with a joystick. Okay, you have a joystick that you can operate most of the functions of the unit, so it makes it really easy to operate. We don't have levers, so it's really intuitive. If we have the chance or if you have the chance to come to and see one of our units, you will be able to drive it and use it in 5 minutes. Okay, because those are really, really easy. And that's something that every client, when they first try it, they say, okay, nice. I really like how to operate this machine. It looks good. Components are, I would say that we're trying to use like really good components on our units. And in the end, it's trying to overcome that resistance where they already have something, but we want them to take a look, have a try, and see how our units can improve and can make them more productive.
Yeah, and I will say, people are, if they get into a unit and it feels nice, that people will, their brand loyalty diminishes quite quick. I mean, it's all business at the end of the day. So
yeah, it is.
The units I love. Personally, I love driving these things. They were the most fun to drive, so I want to talk about them for a while, is the telehandlers. Beautiful units. What's the market like that? These look beautifully compact in the sense they just, the design of them. And these are extra tricky because you reach and then you have to turn with these. Like space is a tricky thing with telehandlers. I worked in an equipment yard, so there'd be these rows. You'd need to reach and get something, but then you're needing to turn. And this design is much, like, not even comparable to the one I was driving was long, and it was actually quite frustrating. Even the larger one for you looks quite compact.
It is. I mean, we have a range that goes from 2,700 pounds up to 5,000 pounds, and again, we are talking compact. We are not fighting into the big telehandler market. We have very specific units that, again, are oriented to operate in really complicated spaces with really good four-wheel drive. And something you said about the design of our units is that the way we have our boom placed on the unit, that allow us that even though we have like really compact, really narrow machines, the space you can find in our cabin is way bigger than some of the other options you might find in the market. So in the end, we are offering a really good machine with which we're having a lot of success here in the US, specifically with the smaller unit and also the big unit. Both with rental companies. We are growing quite well with those units, and the market is really looking for our equipment there because we're offering something different, really compact, competitive, and we are being successful with the telescopic handler here in the market.
Out of those three, which is sort of seen the most success in the we'll say the North American market? I don't know if that's a little bit too broad if you want to narrow it down, but.
It would be two. It would be the T144, which is a smaller one, and the big one, the T235. Those two would be. They would be similar in volumes.
Yeah. I actually meant, so those are on your telehandlers, right?
Yes, correct.
What about just across the board? Is it the dumpers that are the sort of the star of the show in the
Yeah.
North American market still?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
And I want to go back to this question because does it change like how much in Latin America? Is that like that size range? Is it similar to the U.S. or does it change again there? Like, is it more golf course, more construction?
No, I would say that the Latin American market is more similar to the European one.
Okay.
The concept of the dumper is more well known, I guess. But there, the main dumper we are selling would be the rigid one, which is a much more simpler unit we are selling there. Normally, it's also related with emissions. In all of our range, we do have, for example, here in the US, we do Tier 4 final engines or Stage 5 engines. In some countries in Latin America, we have to go for a Stage 3A engine. So that gives a different scenario in terms of needs. And also, normally in Latin America, they don't want complex machines. So we try to keep it simple there. Yeah, the mix would be 100% different.
Oh, really? Okay. And then so even then Europe is more construction, but what kind of machines are going there? Are those the more complex, a lot of the simpler ones, a mixture?
It depends a little bit on the market we're talking about, because the rigid dampers, as of today, those are a product that are mainly being sold in maybe Latin America. Spain is a popular place for those units, and maybe Africa and Middle East. But if we talk about Europe, it would be for sure those have to be a Stage 5 engine, so they have to have the DPF and all of that. So the more complex units are okay to be sold in Europe. Due to regulations, there is no other way around, so you have to go for the complex machines there. But even in Europe, the product mix might differ from UK to Spain or to France or to Germany. That changes.
Yeah. Probably even by city. If you like, I'm in British Columbia. If you're in Vancouver, you drive 2 hours. It's not even 2 hours, an hour. You go from hills and like the coast into the flat areas of the Chilliwack and the Abbotsford. That's all agriculture. It just completely changes the environment. If you drive another 2 hours, you're in mountainous semi-desert. It's just completely different environments. Yeah.
Sometimes it's related with the weather. Sometimes it's not related with the weather. It's like when we were talking about sometimes you might have those two countries that are close together or just side by side, and the way they use our equipment or the applications there might be completely different. I don't know the reason behind that. Sometimes is that they've been doing it for a long time that way, and it works for them. So every market is a little bit different. And you cannot talk about Latin America like as a whole. There are differences depending on the market. And so it's quite different depending on the area.
Well, that's the next thing I want to get into with is your dealership network. We'll just focus on the U.S. and Canada for this because it's going to get too big if we try to. I don't know if we can cover it, but you've got. Do you know who your first one was? Do you know who your first dealer was? Where they were?
I think we started selling here in the U.S. before we had a subsidiary here, so we had to go through.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, in the past, I mean, because I think that we started selling here on around the 2000s, more or less. I know that we started selling here, but I don't remember the name of the first dealer. But at the beginning, we did it like that. We had like kind of an importer here, and we were importing through them because that's normally the approach we have in other markets. We realized that the potential for this market was so big that we needed to have like a subsidiary here, and that's why we started with the AUSA US Corp. Because one of the things that this market, and I've been working all around the world with AUSA for a long time, and some of the things that really surprised me from the beginning was the potential. The potential in this market is unbelievable in so many ways. And that was the reason why we set up a subsidiary. Then from there, the way we try to do business here is that we try to have a good dealer network in the US, as you said, where we are trying to cover the country, even though it's difficult here because the US is so big. And our dealers are offering our products, our dealers are covering service, our dealers are helping us with the spare parts business. And that's the way we're trying to grow, trying to find really good dealers that have a name already in the market.
Yeah.
That because at the beginning that would help us if we were able to be with a dealer that was well known in their area. They know the
Right.
market, they know the final client. That helped us beginning there.
You're touching on something that I think I want to spend a little time on, is that U.S. market entry. We find even in our business, it is overwhelmingly massive. Like if you say we do a construction show, well, construction is aggregate, concrete, the actual building, infrastructure, road building. It just goes on and on and on. It's so big just by organizations that represent. It's like there's a concrete organization and then there's a cement organization. Like it's this massive thing. And so when you're going in, now there's probably 1,000 people that would sell your products. What's the criteria for an actual dealer to say, okay, this is, because if you just work with everybody, you get spread out and you got too many moving parts. I'm assuming what you run into.
Yep.
Like I'm looking at one you've got in Hawaii. It looks like you've got Allied has 5 different locations on the different islands in Hawaii. Probably a great partner for you.
Yep.
How do you gauge, okay, this is the right fit? Like I'm looking at your map and you have a lot, but there's not one in Arizona, not one in Montana, Iowa, Ohio. Like these are some major hubs. How do you judge, okay, this is the right partner for you in some of these major places?
Okay, the approach in the end is what we try to find in the market is a company, first of all, that is well established, that has a really good service, because for us, having really good service is our number one question when we're approaching someone. Because even though our machines are really good, sometimes they break down like any other machine.
Right,
so
yeah.
we're looking for a partner that has service covered. Then what we try to see is what they are already doing. Okay, whether if we are trying to target like the agriculture business, we'll try to see whether they have connections there. If we want to go into the golf course maintenance, we'll see whether they have connections. But the main thing would be, is our range complementing what they are already doing? That would be the main question. Because I'm not saying that finding a dealer is easy, because it's not. But we need to find a partner that we are important for them. I mean, we don't need to be number one revenue.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't need to be number one revenue for them, but we need to be important for them. Because if we are not important for them, then we will be just another brand they are having. And we don't want to be like with a partner where they have like 12 different brands and then we're just one brand they have, and that they only try to sell it when they are being asked specifically about our unit. We want someone that will want to go outside, find clients, show what we do, show our product, and that's what we are looking for. It is true that sometimes, normally it's a difficult thing to do. It's the most difficult thing, I would say, in this business, trying to find the right partner. That's the most difficult thing, because in the end, when you're approaching a dealer, they are already doing good business, I guess. They are happy with what they have. And now this is AUSA coming and saying, you know what, given the product range you have, and we really think that our product, normally we will complement them on the lower capacity side, because as I said, our machines are compact, rough terrain, and we're offering something different that sometimes they're being asked about. And this is the approach we use with them. And now I would say it's easier because we already have a presence here. It must have been like really complicated at the beginning with a European brand coming into the US that no one knew, and that was a different scenario. I'm not saying that it's easy now, but because it is not easy, but it's easier because we can show applications, we can show final clients, we can show everything, and they already know we are already here.
Yeah.
They know that we have a spare parts warehouse here in North Charleston. They know that we have a stock of machines, and they know that, and that's helping us now. That would be the approach we'll be having. But in the end, sometimes being the US so big, as you said, we have some states where we don't have presence yet, but we're trying to grow that.
Yeah.
It's a difficult
you're
process.
Oh, that's something so interesting. I want to look at this, is that you need somebody that is going to prioritize your product line, but you also need someone who's established, right?
I don't need them. I don't need them to prioritize my product in front of whatever else they are doing.
No, of course not.
I want them to feel that our range is going to help them grow.
Right.
I don't want them to have us as a brand. I mean, what I want is someone that we can work together and make them grow, which will be also good for us. But we want to be important for them. I would say that's the word.
Yeah, important. Yeah, that is a better word. And so you touched on, I just want to go back on it, is that you said about sometimes these smaller units, because every dealer is not carrying the full line. So you sort of they need to sort of, if it's a dealer, are they sort of establishing which product lines you have that plug in? Does every dealer have all three, or do some just do dumpers?
No, I mean, normally we have three different range of products: dumpers, forklifts, telescopic handlers, and the applications might differ. It's really difficult that you can have a dealer that is really good in construction, really good in agriculture,
right,
really good in industry. I mean, that might exist, but if it exists, already has like a lot of brands and they are okay with what they have. So it depends on the market. I mean, some of our dealers are dealing with the three of them, with the three ranges. Some others are just dealing with one. Some of them are trying to reach a couple of different markets. Some others are just focused in one. So there is not like a general answer to that question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what about people that are new to get into the market? Let's say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm coming out of the construction, so I know the industry, but I want to start up a dealership. I look at your map and I go, well, I'm in Iowa, and is that quite a challenge? I mean, there's a lot that goes into starting a dealership, but I'm just curious. One of our famous people in one of our most successful entrepreneurs out of BC, where I'm at, is Jimmy Pattison, and he started all these car dealerships. He brought these lines in. So there is in the car market, there's a big opportunity for that, or there was. I mean, it's pretty saturated. In your market, I mean, I see some of these gaps. Is there an opportunity for that entrepreneurial sort of approach?
Yeah, I mean, we get approached, I wouldn't say every day, but every week for sure, by different companies that our name is starting to be well known in the US. And so people are like, okay, I see AUSA, I like AUSA, and you receive an email or you receive a call saying, okay, I'm based here. I see that you don't have a distributor there. Would it be possible to start discussions? And yeah, we are open for that. We are looking for that. And then we start a process in which everything I told you about is understanding who they are, what are their plans, how AUSA will fit on that scenario. And if that works for them, that works for us, then we will advance and we might end up signing an agreement with them and having them as a partner. Sometimes, I mean, what we try to do here is that from where we came from, where we were not known, to the actual dealer network we have, there's been a lot of work being done there. I mean, by all the people that have worked in AUSA here in the US in the past, and that has been a process. Trying to have, I mean, even like really big brands might not have a presence in every single state. I mean, that's something that it would be great to have like a dealer on every single state. But in some cases, I mean, being on the lower part of Texas, and if you have a client that is on the top part of Texas, then the distance there is just huge. So
it's difficult. For sure. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like BC, I mean, if you're operating out of Vancouver, you're not. Kamloops is.
No.
It might as well be a different country. It's a completely different environment.
As an example, if we talk about Texas, I think it's bigger than Spain, and in Spain we would have 17 distributors.
Right.
Just to take care, of the Spanish market. So in the end, it's trying to find the right balance in terms of, okay, how many distributors you have, how far are they from the potential customers you might be having. So it's a difficult balance, but we are trying to make the best out of it. We are quite happy with the presence we have so far, but for sure, we want to increase the number of partners we have in the market, because in the end, that will mean that the level of service we're giving to the market will be much better. Because that's when I spoke at the beginning about the potential of the US market, the other big thing I saw is that this market is service demanding, and we've been
yeah.
able to improve our level of service there. We are increasing our spare parts availability here in the US. And that's one of the biggest differences of the market. Here, the market is open to try sometimes new things, but you cannot fail in service. You have to be really good there.
Yeah, I would say if I was going to stereotype the American market, they will get going fast, coming and going. That's
yeah. I agree on that.
It's so fascinating watching a company like just of your size and scale pushing into that's why I'm asking so many questions about it, because it's such a big market. I can just imagine some of the conversations as you're trying to navigate. And the last question I wanted to ask is just like I used the Hawaii answer, but like in North Dakota, you've got Conquest. They've got 2 different locations up in I guess that would be the northwest of North Dakota. I'm guessing that's a pretty big advantage too, if you can find a dealer that has multiple setups. So then that brand awareness sort of covers a lot more ground in one state.
Yeah, I mean, normally when we're talking about the potential dealers, for sure, if we approach a distributor that has different offices around different states, that's like a positive point for us. If we talk, for example, about Welch Equipment, who is based in Denver, they have also branches on the states around them. So that's a perfect match for us.
Yeah.
For sure, if they have the ability of selling in some other markets, in servicing some other markets, that's the perfect scenario.
Yeah, and I didn't ask that other question very well earlier when I said prioritize, and that's what I was getting at. Somebody like a Welch, they have multiple, so they're so well established. So you need to find, and important is a better word. You need to find someone that's important, but then you need to find where, like a Welch, they would have a lot of product line already. Yep. So you need to now find which specific units plug in for them. Is that right?
Correct. Here there are similar examples to Welch. If we talk about, for example, Toyota Leaf Northwest in Washington, they are dealers that are dealing with indoor forklifts or industrial forklifts, okay, which is a different market to the rough terrain forklift. But from time to time, they are being asked about rough terrain alternatives to what they offer, because indoor forklifts or industrial forklifts are really good for that specific application. And it makes sense that someone that wants a forklift for a warehouse or something like that, they go for an industrial. But if the application is outdoors and then the terrain is not so good, in the past there have been cases in which people are using the wrong product for the wrong application.
Oh, I've done that many times, driving the wrong forklift, and many times, all the time.
And we try, and something we try to tell our partners, and this is one of the first discussions we have when we are approached by a dealer that is already dealing with industrial forklifts, is that, okay, you know a lot about industrial forklift market, but the rough terrain one is a different one. Okay, the way to sell it, the type of client and everything is different. Yeah. So that's where they see the possibility of complementing their range. I mean, for sure, if we talk about Toyota Leaf Northwest in Washington, that's an example. Okay, we will never be as important as Toyota is for them. We'll never be that company there. But we're offering something that they are being asked about, and they see a potential there. And this is, or if you go to California, or if you go to Florida, where you see the potential there for agriculture, or there, depending on the market, the type of product is different. But in the end are you interested in having us because you see the potential there? We work together on a business plan so that they also see if they want to invest in this partnership, so that they are aware of where we can be in 3 years' time, what it takes to get there, maybe a couple of guys just selling our type of products because the market is different. So we try to make it like a process. We go with them all the way because we understand how, at this moment, and I think I said that before, we have around 500 dealers around the world, so we know how to deal with dealers and distributors.
Yeah, I wanted to. The other thing, I saw your units. I think it was the forklift or was it telehandler out? And I feel like I just should mention it out in a like a forestry, like
Okay.
yeah. And I thought that's a great example of
Yep.
like a Toyota, like the Toyota one. They've got their in-house ones, but if there's a forestry application, then your unit plugs right into that, and so you need to have that unit available.
100%. On that case, we'll be talking about our bigger forklifts. Will be the C400 or the C500. We even have some specific mast for that application, because in the end, you're working in a forestry and you are working with logs that are really wide.
Right. Yeah.
You need to have a very specific mast that has to be reinforced. So yeah, we know about those applications because we are using those units elsewhere. But again, it's just trying to show our partners, test the machine, see how it can help you and how. Because in the end, the main thing would be, are you using the right product for what you are doing? That would be the main question that we want the final client to be asking themselves. Is there something out there that will help me better than what I'm using now? And this is where AUSA, I think, fits perfectly in a lot of applications.
The last question I am going to ask you for the day, because thank you for your time, but I want just your, not the last question, but the last topic, is just your leadership. You've been in this position, you're fairly new, right? About a year or so?
Yeah, I started here in the U.S. In February this year, even though I've been with AUSA over close to 14 years already.
Oh, okay. So this is a big role that you're taking on for the North American market. What is your? I try to find a different approach to everybody that I have on. I try to ask a different leadership question, so I'm not every week just going, well, how do you inspire your people? One of those. So what I was curious about with you, because talking to you, the thing that came to my mind is, what is your sort of leadership style? Like, you come into the North American market. You've got a pretty big mandate. I mean, the U.S. market is about as big as it gets. Well, globally, it is as big as it gets. What is your leadership approach to this quite large task that you've been given?
I mean, I have to say that even though I've been visiting the US in the last years for different exhibitions, you never get the clear view of how this market is till you get like really involved in it. Mm-hmm. And as you said, one of the first things was potential, and the potential is so big there. So the potential for growth is just unbelievable in so many ways.
Yeah.
Regarding my leadership, when I came here, I found like a really good team. We really have like an amazing team here in the US, and I don't need to have them excited, because the growth we have had during these last years is showing that the potential for the following years should be just unbelievable. As of today, the US market for AUSA is the number 2 market globally. It should become number 1 in a couple of years maximum. Those are the expectations, because in the end, even though the market for next year, I mean, and I'm not talking about ourselves, I'm talking about as a market. I mean, there are a little bit of uncertainties there. For us, it looks really, really amazing from what we are seeing, not just with our dealer network, but also with the big rental companies that are starting to have our units on the rental fleet. So. My leadership here is trying to make my team part of this growth. I have also tried to bring AUSA US Corp somehow closer to AUSA, so that we share and we take advantage of everything that we know works in Europe, on other markets, and try to bring it here. For sure, there is a lot of job to be done. We are ambitious. We think that the objectives we have in front of us are not just to be met, but to be, exceeded if possible. And that's the plan we have for the following years. Also, with that, AUSA is launching is on a periodic time. I mean, we are launching new products, new developments. This week, we just launched our new range of really small dumpers, the 101, the 151, so that there has been a launch. We have some electric units that we discussed in the past. So we are all the time innovating. Is the only way to try to grow in the market. And coming from Europe, being a European manufacturer that is really well known in Europe, but we're starting to be well known here in the US. The approach is, let's try to be innovative. Let's try to work on what we know works elsewhere and try to introduce that in the market.
Those 101 units, that electric, the electric lines, are you seeing a demand in this market as well? In the North America, how does that sort of fit into everything else that you're focused on?
We have a couple of units in the damper line that are electric, which would be the 101, which is the newest one, but also the 151. And those two are a good example of innovation in our company, because with those two units, if you saw the electric version and the diesel version side by side, if it was not for the decals, you would say those are exactly the same product. So what we're trying to offer is exactly the same productivity you will get with a diesel with an electric. The question whether the demand is there, yeah, the demand is there. But every market, again, is different. It is clear that we are trying to be more environmental friendly, let's say, but that doesn't only apply to having like electric units. Also, the approach you take with the diesel units is important. We try to have like really low consumption units, because in the end, the CO2 you are launching into the environment is also related with diesel consumption, and diesel consumption is related with the size of the machine and the compartment. So in the end, we are in a plan to try to reduce our impact, and electric units are part of that plan. I wouldn't say that electric units are number one priority here in the US, because they are not. They are not a number one priority anywhere in the world, but we're starting to see in different places, like if you talk about London from 6 p.m., they only allow to have electric units there. So if you want to be there, you need to have some electric units there. And there are, for example, states here like California, where I would say the demand is much higher there than it would be in Texas, as an example. But it's important that you have those in your range, because it shows your commitment to be environmental friendly, and also shows how your company is able to develop like new products and be on top of the industry. We are able to do it. We know how to do it, and we are ready to grow on that need if that needs grow faster than it's growing as of today.
It's funny you said that. I never would. I always think of the efficiency but I've never thought of the sound. And someone who's worked in construction, you're limited sometimes in your in when you can work because of the sound problem. And I hadn't even thought of that. That would be a great application for little electric units to say, okay,
100%.
We'll do all the loud stuff right now. There's a beautiful boardwalk right by our office, and they're doing that construction. I've seen your type of units out on there, and you could get everything prepped. And so the moving at the end of the day, when it's supposed to be quiet, these units are not making all that sound. So I never thought of that. Alberto, thank you so much. Thanks for letting me pepper you with questions. It's very interesting what you're doing. You're a big company moving into an even bigger market. So it's an interesting dynamic within the U.S. market and North America on a whole. So thank you for talking to us. I love the product line. When I first met Albert, I just thought this is an amazing. If I was a dealer, I wish I was, to be honest, because I would. Okay,
we can start discussions.
Yeah, we might. We actually might. Yeah, I was looking at your Canadian map, and I was thinking, well, there might be something there. So,
for sure.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I hope we do this again. We have different shows and that. There's more stuff we could talk about, but I really do appreciate your time and getting this all set up.
It's been a real pleasure. It's always nice to talk about our range and our future plans for here in the US. And I'm personally really excited about the future ahead of us, because I think it's going to be really, really good for us as a company.
Yeah, from what I know of your company, I couldn't agree more. So thank you.
Okay, perfect.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. Of course, if you go into the description, if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be plenty of links. You can go see the different units we've had that you've seen throughout the show. You can follow Alberto on LinkedIn. You can follow the company on LinkedIn. Please reach out to us. If you have any suggested guests, reach out to them if you know of a dealer or maybe even interested in being a dealer, and we'll put contact information for them as well in the description below. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to all the people that support the show. We will see you on the next episode of The Crownsmen Show.